Hi everybody, I'm doing something a little bit different today. Some of you may have noticed that it's been a long time since I posted anything to YouTube, and I want to try to talk about that a little bit. If you're here to watch me build something today, I apologize. Feel free to catch the next video. There will be more videos at some point, I promise. And I'll also try to show you some sneak peeks of what I've been trying to work on over the past year or so. But first, I just want to share a little bit of what's been going on. It's not super easy to talk about. I've hesitated quite a bit as to whether or not to make this video because I recognize this is a building channel. This is not a real talk kind of channel, but it's the only outlet that I have, the only platform I have for this kind of stuff. And I also think, we're not all one-dimensional people. I'm not just a builder. You're not just whatever people might brand you as. I think that life is certainly about more than goofy building videos. At least the past year or so has taught me that. So I hope that in some way this helps somebody. If you don't like what I have to say, I'm fine with that. Anyway, so in 2021, right around the time, shortly after I started this YouTube channel, in fact, I started getting dizzy, just kind of out of the blue. One day I started getting lightheaded, almost as if I had some kind of a fever coming on. But I never got a fever, and I didn't get COVID, and I didn't get vertigo or anything else. We couldn't figure out what was going on. I just knew that I was kind of dizzy and lightheaded day after day. Kind of got progressively worse. I started feeling just tired, run down all the time. I would wake up in the morning feeling kind of like I was hungover, but I hadn't been drinking at all. Seeing lots of doctors, all the tests I was taking were inconclusive. Things got just really frustrating because they also continued getting worse. And it got so bad that at one point I was unable to sleep. I would wake up in like a panic attack, and then I would be just unable to sleep for the rest of the night, racing heartbeat, just kind of going out of my mind. And this happened many, many times. And it would have, I'd go 2 or 3 nights without being able to sleep. And that's rough. I wasn't just tired, I was just completely devastated, unable to function between, the insomnia and the dizziness, and I would start getting a lot of pressure in my head, ringing in my ears, things like that. I was just destroyed. I'd have a really bad week, and then things would get a little bit better, and then I'd have another really terrible week, and I just kind of was riding this roller coaster without getting any answers, and that was, of course, getting really frustrating. And this went on for a year. And the best explanation that I got from a doctor during that time was that my body was in some kind of fighting posture. It was trying to fight something that may or may not even have existed, because we couldn't find any positive hits for any illnesses on any of the tests that I was taking. But finally, I tested positive for a certain kind of mold. And that's not the whole story, but it was something that we were able to treat. So we treated that. I saw a little bit of improvement, and then I would backslide again. So we continued trying different things, and what we think we found after probably a year and a half is I was having some digestive issues, and that was kind of opening the door to a lot of other things. And so we were able to treat a couple of the things that were causing my body to just react in this crazy way. I was basically releasing all these stress hormones, half of which I can't even pronounce, but kind of like adrenaline, a lot of cortisol at all the wrong times. Little by little, we started treating things, and here I am today, almost 2 years from when I started dealing with all this stuff. And I still have symptoms. I'm doing better than I was, for sure, but I still am by far not 100%, but just the fact that I'm able to do this video is a huge improvement over where I was. So I would encourage you, if you're going through hardship, to a couple of things. One is, if you can, to be patient and to not give up, because there were many, many days when I was thinking things in my lowest points, like, if this is what life is like, why am I continuing to do this? There were a lot of times when there was no answer in sight, and I didn't know if things were ever going to get any better, and it's taken a long time just to get back to this point. I continued making YouTube videos for a while, and then I had to just stop. I continued trying to make YouTube videos for a while, and then I had to stop that too. And in those low points, when my livelihood was literally being stolen from me, and I'm in the, supposedly the prime of my life, and I'm not able to do the things that I love, what is the point of all this? And in those moments, I really just had to wait and see what tomorrow brought. And sometimes it was more of the same, but eventually it was a little bit better, and then a little bit better than that. And now I'm at a point where I'm managing things better. We've treated some of the issues, some of the other things, or we're still waiting for them to work themselves out. If you're going through something difficult, not only, please be patient, please don't give up, but I hope that you can surround yourself with a support system, and that there are people in your life. And if there aren't, I hope that you can find a support system, or I hope that one can find you. There are tons of resources on the internet, Facebook groups, or if you talk to doctors and you keep asking them questions, or ask for support, or explore therapy. And even if you can't afford therapy, sometimes therapists can refer you. If you have any insurance whatsoever, sometimes you can call your insurance company and they can help you find different people for you to see or talk to that are within your plan, or may not be within your plan, but may be affordable. I've spent a lot of time on the phone with my insurance company, and my wife has spent a lot of time on the phone on my behalf, just finding different people who know a lot more about things than I do, who could find me other doctors to see. The last thing that I'll say is, if you haven't dealt with something this serious, which chances are you have, because while I've been going through this, I've seen other people go through things that are just as difficult, if not more difficult. It's pointless to say something like, be grateful that it's not worse, or be grateful for the health that you have. You tell that to somebody who's going through hard times, and they'll want to punch you in the face, and I don't blame them. But while I'm going through this, I watched my uncle battle cancer. I watched my neighbor lose a battle to leukemia. I couldn't tell myself just to be grateful that I wasn't in their shoes, because nothing that I've dealt with has been terminal, fortunately. So I know that I can't say that to anybody else, but what I can say is that I've certainly gained the perspective that there are things in life, difficulties that we go through, that can really consume us whether we want them to or not. And this has certainly been one of those for me. But there are other things that we go through, difficulties that we go through, that will consume us if we let them, and we don't have to let them. And I'm not saying not to feel your feelings. I'm not saying that things shouldn't knock us down for a time. It's more than just sucking it up and dealing with it and dusting yourself off. It's definitely dealing with the things that happen to you and getting the support that you need. I hope for everybody who's going through hardship, and for everybody who does, I just hope that that you can see it for what it is, and that you can not let it consume you for any longer than it has to, and that you can find some really healthy distractions like I have, and that you have people around you, whether they're the family that you were born with or the family that you've chosen. I'm very fortunate to have both, and for any of them who are watching, thank you so much for helping me during this time, especially to my wife, who you see sometimes in the background. Usually she's behind the camera, but she's been unbelievable, and I can't even express how grateful I am for her. And so with that, let's take a look at some of the things that are coming up on this channel. Well, we're down here in my shop/garage, and behind me you can see the framework of what's going to be a nice little shop project. This is an outfeed table I'm making for my table saw and my router, and I'll do a video on that, and you'll probably see it in the next couple of months here. But that's not what I'm really here to talk about in the shop. Over the past year and a half, despite the fact that a lot of the time I was barely able to function, I still got involved in a couple projects that are way over my head, and one of which is this. This is a 1999 Jeep XJ, better known as a Cherokee. It has just shy of 190,000 miles. It has a lot of things wrong with it, but it has a clean title. I picked it up at a salvage auction. It does run not very well. There's a lot of things that I'm trying to fix, but I'm not a mechanic. I'm barely a woodworker. I just have a big appetite for learning things and diving into the deep end, and that's what I've done with this Jeep. There are a lot of these Jeeps still around, not a lot of them on the road necessarily. Most of them are rusting away in somebody's field or backyard, and that's why I picked up this one. It's nostalgic for me because my dad used to have one, and I think they're cool, but the main reason I bought this one is because it's rust free, and that is very difficult to find. Let me show you. I'm gonna have to flip the camera around. I'll show you underneath. So here's the underside of the rocker panel on the driver's side of the Jeep, and you can see it's obviously dirty, but there's virtually no rust. And this is the first place where these Jeeps start rusting out. So many of them have the floorboards just completely rusted through. You can see the road. This one, however, was both repainted and undercoated at some point in its life. So I've got oil leaks, transmission leaks, all that mechanical stuff, but I don't have the serious body rust that a lot of these Jeeps struggle with, and that's the saving grace of this particular vehicle. The inside is in decent shape. It's got a weird smell to it that I'm trying to work on, and I have to fix this center column here. I've got it all torn apart. Downside to this thing is what's missing right here, and that is a four-wheel drive lever. This thing is rear-wheel drive, which makes no sense to me. That'll be a pretty big effort to put 4x4 in it, but I'm gonna try it at some point. I've probably got 30 or 40 hours invested in this thing already, most of which I have filmed, so I hope to put those videos out at some point. But there's another project that's much bigger than this thing that has distracted me quite a bit over the past several months. Are you ready? I'm not sure I am.
So what are we looking at here?
This will be the basketball court.
No. You're supposed to say this is our fixer-upper.
This is our fixer-upper. So when I launched my YouTube channel, I kind of always had this vision that someday we would buy a house with some property, but it would probably be a fixer-upper, and I would spend the majority of my time on the channel just renovating it, because that's basically what we did with the first house. We just didn't film any of it until now. So that was always kind of the plan, but then with all my health issues and everything, we thought maybe, you know, a fixer-upper, there could be some problems there. That's probably not a wise decision. So we're just starting with something super bare bones, and we're just gonna build up from there. No, I'm joking. This is our new property, and rather than buying a house and fixing it up, we bought property and we're gonna build. So it's 4 acres, and that's enough to get into a lot of trouble and do a lot of things that we want to do. Enough space to build a workshop, enough space obviously to build pretty much any kind of house that we can afford, which who knows what that's going to be yet. We didn't plan on buying property quite so soon, especially with the market being what it is, and we don't know when we're going to be able to build this thing. But in the meantime, we have this property. We couldn't let it get away. We're going to build a lot of like mountain bike trails out here. You may have noticed some bikes in the background of some of my videos. That's one of my life's passions. So we're going to fit as many bike trails and features as we can into 4 acres. And this property has kind of a nice sloped elevation, so good for, you know, gravity stuff. It's pretty isolated, which is also something that we're excited about. So we're gonna have a lot of fun here, and hopefully we're gonna start on some videos out here this summer. All right, so last but not least, many of you may have seen this temporary fence that my wife and I installed last summer or last winter. It was definitely not summer, it was winter. We installed this basically in an afternoon. It's a 4-foot wire fence. You can use welded wire, chicken wire, garden wire. As long as it's 4 feet, this video will show you how to do it. There was no digging involved because we used these U-posts, which I mistakenly called T-posts. Thank you for correcting me. But many of you have asked me, when are we gonna see a gate? Well, I have not one, but 2 gates. Here's gate number 1. This is the big boy. This is an 8-foot half-lap joinery gate with pressure-treated 2x4s. You could drive a vehicle through this thing, which I definitely plan to drive the Jeep through it at some point and work on it in my backyard. This took me a couple of weeks, and I would say it's like an intermediate level of difficulty to build if you want to build your own. And the reason why I'm walking through my yard right now is I want to show you the other gate, which is much smaller, but also much simpler and easy to build. This next gate, which is right here, is a 30-inch wide gate, which is the size of a standard door in your house. You know, the door in your bedroom is probably about 30 inches. And this one uses 2x2 pressure-treated lumber. And you can see you could still fit a lawnmower through it if you wanted to. And this one was, I would say, low to beginner level difficulty of build, and it did not require any digging because I used these easy spikes down here on the ground. So I have 2 videos coming very soon, depending on when you're seeing this video. They may already be out. I'll drop a link in the description. And if you need to build a gate, now you have 2 options. So thanks for, sticking through to the end of this video. I appreciate your interest in all of this stuff, or if you're not interested, thanks for watching anyway. The reason why I'm doing this is just to share whatever I'm learning. I'm learning a lot of this stuff as I go. I've never built gates like this before. I've never worked on a Jeep before. I've definitely never built a house before, but I'm figuring it out as I go, as I'm assuming most of you are, and I hope that all of this is helpful to you in some way. Oh, hey, there's my rain barrel that I clad with pressure-treated lumber to make it look less like a rain barrel and more like a whiskey barrel. There's a video on that from like a year ago. That's actually the last video that I made before I had to shut things down, to try to get healthy. So I'm very happy to be back with you, very happy to be back building, and I hope to see you on the next video very soon.